Hello and welcome everybody to our today's webinar. Today I would like to present to you all the new functionality that we published with the new and latest Just Planet release beginning of last week. But before, I would like to give some preliminary information. As you guys might know, this is a GoToWebinar. So that means that all attendees are automatically muted, and this is due to optimization of the audio quality. If you guys have any questions, then I would kindly ask you to write this in the chat box. So like I will have an eye on the chat box, and if there's a question arising, then I will try to answer this directly. But as I can guarantee, in the end of the webinar, I will have a look in the chat box afterwards. And if that is a maybe also a hard question, then I will come back to you in a written form via email to answer all your questions. Okay. To introduce myself, my name is Elmar Karlovic. I'm Managing Director and co-owner of Netronic Software, which is the company that provides Just Planet. And within Netronic, I'm responsible for all the definition of the Just Planet sprints. So I'm kind of the innovator of Just Planet. And here you can see my email address as well as a support address. So also here, please feel free to write any comments, any requests, any ideas directly to that email. So let's look onto today's agenda. What was the new functionality that we have been releasing? So first of all, we decided to streamline the functionality for the manpower related tasks. I guess you guys remember in the June sprint, we focused on providing functionality to automatically schedule manpower related tasks. Here we got great feedback. Thank you for that. Obviously, you guys liked what we have been releasing there, but we decided to have a closer look on your comments and also internally discussed, and we saw some potential, to streamline the functionality, and I will show you what we did there in a minute. And also what we did is we focused on providing some new helpful KPIs for you. And these KPIs have one intention, to be more proactive in the sense of how your jobs are evolving based on the current schedule. And also I will give a more detailed explanation of what KPIs we provided with the new Just Planet version. Let's start off with the streamlining of the manpower-related tasks functionality. So just to get the head around the general idea of manpower-related tasks. So in principle, there are two categories of tasks that you can have in Just Planet. The one we just call now the standard use case, the standard tasks. So that is what you are used, and that is existing since the very first version of Just Planet. You have an operation, and this operation is assigned to a machine, or the machine is simultaneously operated by a person. So that is a standard use case. So the standard use case is pretty much machine orientated. But we learned that on the other hand side, there is also some tasks that do not require machines, but that are manpower related. And here, the way of thinking that we learned that you guys have is that you require a certain amount of time units of a dedicated skill. So a very typical example for the manpower related tasks in high mix, low volume scheduling is assembly, for example. So you think in a way that, okay, to assemble this and this jobs, I need in total, whatever, like 400 minutes. I need 400 minutes of assembly. So, and then there are many, many possibilities how you want to handle this requirement of 400 minutes. So you can put in one head, one person, then as a matter of fact, this one person would then need to assemble the entire 400 minutes. Or you could put in a second head, 2-person operating the assembly. Then it's most likely that the total runtime then gets shorter, if, and that is required, your finite capacities are available accordingly. But I guess now you see the difference between the way of handling a manpower-related task and the standard use case. So the manpower-related is the more heads you put in there, the shorter it gets. And the other is just assigned to a machine or an operator. And here, operator and machine must be available at the same time. That's a hard constraint. While the manpower-related tasks do not necessarily require all people to be available at exact the same time. So, for example, if 2 assemblers start the assembly and the third is joining the process after a while when he has finished the other workload that he was assigned to before, this is also possible. So hence, we have got an either-or relation. It can just be either the standard case or the manpower-related use case. And this either-or relation we now brought into JustPlanet. So what does that mean? So before, we had no clear separation. So even, if it was a standard use case and a certain task was operated on a machine, the heads value showed a 1. So there was 1 head, even if it was 1 machine. So that was not really consistent. And we decided, just to enhance and streamline this. So now you will just see a heads value if you insert one. And with inserting a heads value, it is your decision that this is a manpower-related task that works, or is following the assumption of the logic I explained to you before. If there's no value, it's an ordinary task or standard task as you are used to it. So, and doing this, we could get rid of the subtask tab in the Manage Task Details dialog. So remember, we introduced a forced tab for the subtask just in case you insert a head, and this is gone now. Because what we have now is a scheduling information only, and once you insert a value into the heads, then the grid below is switching. It will show the figures needed for a standard task if the heads is 0, and the grid will switch to the figures you will need if it's a manpower-related task. And with this streamlining, the tab subtasks, is obsolete now. Okay? So like here you can see in that screenshot that I inserted 3 heads, and with inserting the heads in that field, you can see that the grid at the bottom of my screenshot here changes accordingly to what was before to be seen in the subtask tab. Okay? And last but not least, with that change, we also do not need the right mouse menu edit heads, because what you now do is you edit the task with edit. This is it. So now let's have a look into JustPlanet and I show you directly in my JustPlanet account what I'm talking about based on the slides. So let's go for this PO here, and I'm going for a finishing task. The finishing task here is manpower related. Currently it's just 1 worker, and if I'm editing this, then you can see currently it is treated as a standard task. But once I'm inserting now a head or more than 1 head, then you will see that the grid here below will change. So see that? So like first head, second head, third head, fourth head. So let's keep it with 4 heads. So I've got a quantity of 40 I want to have now the finishing done by 4 heads. Each one is doing a quantity of 10. And therefore, the tab subtask is not longer needed, because now this is automatically switching whether you decide if the task is standard or manpower related. So, and if you switch that back, it is switching back. Does that make sense? So, and if I'm clicking OK, then you will see that the application will find if there is 4 people available to operate. And here, yes, luckily I have got 4 portions, and with that interaction I was also able, to schedule this job currently on time. Okay, so that is the streamlining of the heads functionality, making things easier. We got rid of the extra tab and integrated the functionality into the scheduling info, makes things easier. Okay, great. Then let's switch back to the slides and coming to the next functionality. And this is the new KPIs. So the idea was following. So currently in Just Planet, or before our latest release, we already provided a lot of helpful KPIs, but in our eyes, all these absolute figures mostly focused on the current state. We're showing, okay, giving an alert, currently this is scheduled to be late, and that is it. And we wanted to provide some additional figures that help you to anticipate how a job will most likely evolve. So have got like kind of a radar that tells you, oh, okay, here is an alert even before it's scheduled to be late. So, and what is the KPI that we are showing up with now? So we have the buffer level, as we call that. So the buffer level consists out of 2 parts. On one hand side, there is the buffer, and this KPI you know already. We have been providing this since a very long time. So the buffer is actually the time distance between the currently scheduled end date of a job and the due date. Well, that's the buffer. That's a time distance that still is left before a job gets late. That makes sense. It's a total figure buffer. Then we have got what we call the maximum remaining cycle time. And that is getting now a bit tricky, as you can see the formula here. So it is the sum of times of all setups, the sum of all production times of all tasks, the sum of all teardown times, and the sum of all transfer time, but of the branch within the routing, that is the longest. Because not necessarily all of you guys and all use cases include a strict linear routing. We also have got some parallel structures, or a lot of you guys also use the components and you produce one and another and whatever, how many components, and in the end you will assemble. And this is also parallel structures. And with the MRCT, we are checking or identifying that branch that from now takes the longest time, required time. So there are no waiting times. So it is based on the assumption of infinite capacities, and it's checking the longest required total cycle time. And again, this is including the setup, the production, the teardown, and the transfer times. And if we have now the quotient of buffer divided by the MRCT, that is the buffer level. Okay? I'm just moving forward to the slide that will help you to better understand the formula once again here, based on a graph explained how you calculate the buffer level. So it starts off from now. So with the planning start line, it is not considering any finished portion, but it is just adding up the required time that you need to complete the job. But it's just the required time, and it's not the waiting time. So here in that example, we need to compare two branches, the upper branch and the lower branch. The upper branch is long, 10 hours plus 10 hours plus 15, which is 35. And the lower branch just requires 30 hours. So the maximum requested remaining cycle time of this example here is 35 minutes. And then we have got the total buffer. This is the time distance between scheduled end and due date. Here in my example, it's 21. And if we divide the buffer by the MRCT, then we have got a buffer level of 0.6 or 60%. So, and I guess now you can see the value of that figure. It just is the relation of the time that is needed to complete the buffer, theoretically, based on infinite capacities, by it sets it in relation to how much is left to come there. Okay, and the relation is very important because the total buffer, as we had it only in older versions, you know, was not as significant because like a long time distance, you know, didn't say too much because like if it was a very short job with a very short remaining requested cycle time, you know, this such a job wouldn't be very much at risk. But the relation of how long you need and how much is left afterwards, that is having more information in a sense of prospectively checking where your job is currently. Does that make sense? Okay, then I'm switching back to my slide before. Just checking here, okay. Because we have got some additional, what we call additional KPIs, what we call the residuals. And the residuals are the quotients of as-is figures divided by baseline figures. So these residuals indicate how much remains of the MRCT, of your buffer, and of your buffer level. Pretty easy, yeah? So like in the beginning, if you add a job, then both MRCT residual and buffer residual will be 100%. So the moment you add the job, you set the baseline, both are 100%. But once, you know, your job is in your schedule, even if you haven't started the job, then both figures, you know, will start to evolve. Unfortunately, experience says that even if a job is not started yet, the buffer can be consumed pretty likely, and the buffer residual will tell you, okay, how much buffer in comparison to what was initially planned is left over. Okay, so that is the theoretics, and now let's switch to my Just Planet account to see where we make use of it. Therefore, just to give you an overview up front, all the KPIs that I was introducing to you here can be found in-app now as follows. As a field option in the dialogues, so like all the dialogues, you know, you can bring in these KPIs if you like. We have got we have it got in the report generator, as a matter of fact. And I will give an example how you can make use of this in a minute. Also, in settings for color schemes, bar tooltips for tasks and bar text, you can find these. But also, and very important, it is integrated into the API. Furthermore, we made use of the buffer level figure itself to bring in a new color scheme into the job view. We call that kind of a color radar. So in beforehand, you remember that delayed jobs, got an alert with a red color. And exactly at that point where you could see the red color, we added now an orange and a yellow color. The orange color tells you if the buffer level of a job is between 0 and 1, and the yellow color indicates a buffer level between 1 and 2. So, and the yellow and orange, in addition to the red color, shall give you an indication of how your job evolves. And how this looks like, we will now see in my Just Planet account. So like here, you can see that I have got these colorations of yellow as well as orange that give you an indication, okay, that here not only a lot of jobs are late, but there are also quite a lot of jobs, that tend to get late pretty soon. And I can guarantee you, when I started off, like the account here with my example, that was conflict free, and it's pretty easy that to see and spot that obviously something happened that was in a very negative sense and negatively impacted the entire schedule. So if we can just directly see here the first job that was finished here, if I compare my baseline here, originally the welding was foreseen to last whatever, just like a couple of hours, but this really got long, and this then directly was inherited to all the rest of the queue in the welding, and I got some issues here. And on the other hand side, switching to the resources here, you can see that there is one worker got sick, but on the other hand, I tried, to extend the finite capacity for the laser cutting and the welding by having some extra time for worker 2. So a lot of things happened to come to this scenario here. So, and the scenario, once again, starts off with very helpful information that obviously here a lot of jobs are threatened as the buffer level is pretty low. So that is the first way you can make use of the buffer level. The second is, what I did is I wanted to have another overview, and what I did, I retrieved the job report here in the report generator. And here you can see, if I'm scrolling left, so then you would see that I have got all these fields in there with the new KPIs. I exported, and opening that file, you can see as it is here. So lots of figures. Actually, my job report contains all, but what I did, I just focused on the buffer level, the buffer itself, the MRCT, and both in baselines and also in residuals. So then what I wanted to have is a graph that was focusing on the buffer level itself, and this was pretty easy. So I just made here this graph with Excel standard functionality that's just referring to the buffer level itself. And just to give you an idea, I manually added, the colorings that we have implemented in Just Planet, and then you can easily see here that, and this is sorted by the buffer level value, that currently in my account, there's just really a handful of jobs that have a very, very comfortable buffer level, and the rest is either in yellow, in orange, or even in the red area. So that is kind of an overview. And to give you another example of how you can make use of our new KPIs, I made another graph that is focusing only on the started jobs. I just wanted to have an idea about the started jobs, and look at this now. So like this is all my started jobs, and I have got the buffer residual and the MRCT residual. And these values I brought into this Excel graph here. And you can see all these blue dots are showing the jobs with the buffer residual on the x-axis and the MRCT residual on the y-axis. So, and that is the graph that is following out of just these values here. So then also I added the colors. So we have got the green area, the yellow area, and the orange area, and we have the red area. So how to read this now to get an understanding about the two figures and how you get, in my eyes, a very good information about where your jobs are positioned currently. So if you start, or if you add a job to this planet, and in the moment you set the baseline, actually it will be added here at exactly that point where the yellow and the green triangle come together. This is where MRCT residual and buffer residual are 100%. So that means the job is not started, there's no progress, and it still has the original buffer. And in the moment you start the job, and this is here, my jobs are started. In the moment that you start the jobs, you need to try to bring your jobs to the bottom of towards the x-axis as soon as you can. So like you want to finish your jobs as good as you can. But what will happen, and you guys know that in a high mix, low volume environment, you get what I call the dynamics or the current that will, push jobs from the right to the left. So that means that there will be impacts. Impacts can be that just any operation takes longer than estimated. And if you have a good utilization, this, taking longer is, inherited by all the other operations that are in the same queue. Or you have got some machine breakdowns. All this dynamic, or what I call the current here, the current of high mixed or volume scheduling, all these unforeseeable incidents will unfortunately push your jobs to the left. And your aim is, to bring your jobs down to the bottom faster than the current is drifting it to the left towards the red area. Does that make sense? So, and the current position of these two forces, the force of getting the job completed and the force of consuming the buffer, this is exactly what you can see here. So the more the job is going down in relation to it is drifted to the left, the better. And here you can see my PO 12, 10, 13, really great. So they have been better completed than the buffer was consumed. Really bad, for example, is PO 19 because it was just started right now. So it is just has a MRCT residual of 99%. So that is just, it is just started just very, very since a very short time. But even if it needs 99% to be completed, the buffer consumed by 75%. So it's just 25% remaining. So this is most likely that this job gets in trouble. And these jobs that you can see in the red area, they are currently scheduled late. They are started between 180% remaining, but no buffer, already scheduled late. So I hope that this graph here also helps you to understand, the possibilities you get with the new KPIs, to have a more detailed look into the current status of your schedule and to better predict, where potential issues for job delays can arise or not. Okay, so this is an example of how you can make use of the new KPIs. Hopefully you guys could follow the idea. Hopefully you guys like this too, and hopefully you guys make regular use of these additional KPIs. Last but not least, I want to point out that the MRCT is now also be used for the calculation of the auto release dates. Remember, the auto release dates help you to improve your WIP by automatically setting an earliest wanted start date. And in the older versions of Just Planet, we were just summing up the required cycle times, and without considering that there might have been also some parallel structures or sent ahead structures. So everything that was overlapping was just summed up, which in the end did not make much sense. So therefore, we also now make use of the MRCT. So we calculate the different branches, and then we see where is the max remaining cycle time, and this is then weighted by the buffer factor to automatically calculate your earliest wanted start date. Okay, so this is basically it for the latest publish, which we call the July sprint. And but I would like to take the opportunity also to give you kind of an outlook, what you can expect to come with the upcoming sprints. So, and here we are currently working on two major topics, and that is really major topics. And therefore, I cannot promise that both will be released with the next sprint. It's most likely that we will need 2 sprints for that. But what's on the roadmap? On the roadmap is a new dashboard. So you want to provide a new dashboard, and that is including 2 aspects. First aspect is additional functionality. So you can imagine that we also want to bring in helpful new graphs and tabs into the dashboard that are also relating to the new KPIs. So kind of this radar that I showed to you, that will be great if you can realize, and we are working on that. And the second aspect of the new dashboard is we are also working in providing a new business model. So like before, we could just offer a fixed version with a fixed price, and then we gave all into your hands. But now we are working on providing a dashboard that is seamlessly integrating into the subscription business model. That means that we will offer a dashboard subscription, and the subscription of the dashboard is then, including a dashboard product that we want to also continuously enhance as we do it with the Just Planet application. So here we want to bring in the dashboard into the Just Planet family, into the product family, to have this as or better as one portfolio. Second, we are working on And that is something that you guys will love because many of you requested that. We are working on a new client. So like currently, we have got what we call the main client and the operator client. The operator client is foreseen, for the shop floor staff to set the shop floor feedback data. And originally that was made to be used on smartphones. So really, small devices. But we have seen and learned, that more and more of you guys prefer to operate these on tablets. And it is just a fact that tablets have more real estate. And therefore, what we did is, will be no redesign of the operator client. So it is a total new design of a total new client that we currently call the tablet client. So that will be an own client, but all the real estate there, will assume that it is run on a tablet and including hopefully a lot of more functionality and let's call it a bit more smarter functionality for the operators to set the shop floor. That's what we are working on. That is coming up hopefully soon. So in the next sprint, we will have some minor enhancements as I said, the dashboard as well as a tablet client require more than 4 weeks to realize. I hope you guys understand. And with this, I thank you very much for your attention. Again, if there is any question, just let me know, write an email to support or to my email address. Use the chat in Just Planet, whatever you do. We are really looking forward to getting your feedback. And once more, I want to underline that we always listen to your opinion, to your requests, and we guarantee, that the more detailed you reach out, the most likely or the more likely is that we will take this as the basis also for further enhancements. But anyway, also if it's not specified in detail, just share your thoughts, share your ideas. This is what made Just Planet as it is now. And with this, I thank you guys and talk to you later. Have a great day. Bye-bye.